Good to go. All right. Yeah, it's good to be here. Like John said, this afternoon, of course, like every other time that we've planned on me speaking at one of these workshops, we get a call, and it was just, what are you going to do? You know, it's just kind of Murphy's Law. But luckily, I was able to make it home, take a quick shower for everybody else's sake, and make it here. So thank you for your patience. Sorry to show up late and waste your time, but hopefully we get something out of this. Am I still coming out? Going out? Oh, I didn't hear myself. All right, cool. Can everybody hear me good? All right. Let's start off with some questions. What questions does everybody have on the topic of gun safety, gun care, any rumors you hear about guns? I don't know, maybe I'll know the answer, maybe I won't. Nobody has any? Go ahead.
You have to have a permit to conceal carry.
Conceal carry in Arizona? No.
Do you need to have a permit to conceal and carry?
No, in Arizona, you don't need to have a permit to conceal carry. They changed the law some years ago. There are certain restrictions, certain areas you can't go. If there's a private business that has a placard that shows no weapons, it's their property, so they have that right to say no weapons in that zone. But other than that, it's Arizona. That's the law has changed. I think it's 4 or 5 years. Traveling, especially other states, absolutely. You need to know the law of that state that you're traveling to. If you're flying, it's a whole other story with the TSA and making sure the ammunition and the guns are separate and everything's locked up. So it's quite an ordeal if you're flying with weapons. But unless you're a convicted felon, then you pretty much conceal carry in Arizona.
Is there any advantage to having a concealed carry permit in Arizona? Some people still have them.
Yeah, some people still have them. There's still lots of classes. I recommend, if you're going to conceal carry, to go through a class. You're gonna learn a lot of information. You're gonna practice not only carrying from a concealed position, but shooting and drawing out from that position as well. There's always good information to learn in those classes. On the legal side of it, unless anybody else has read anything else, I don't know everything. But I don't see any legal requirement or any benefit to having a concealed carry permit other than the training that you receive to get it. You can always fall back on that. So, question or comment on that?
One of the advantages that you're going to find with a concealed carry permit is that if you buy another gun and you present your permit, you're not going to have a background check because the permit has a background check already. If you're going to go into a place that sells alcohol, you're going to have a concealed carry permit in order to be there, whether you're drinking or not. Okay, if you want to bring your weapon with you. And then the third thing is, if you get pulled over, any good cop here in Arizona is going to immediately assume that you have a gun and that it's on you. So when you give them your driver's license, if you don't have to, but it's always a good idea to pass over your concealed carry permit as well. Now all of a sudden they know something about you. They know that you're a good person because you passed a background check. They also know that you've gone out of your way to take the class. And so the level of unknown is reduced significantly, so your interaction with that police officer or DHP or whoever it may be is going to be significantly better.
Some good points.
The other advantage is that some of the states have reciprocity, and so you can travel into Utah or some of those other areas.
Sure. Any other questions? I think I saw a hand over here. No? All right, we'll dive right into it. I was just kind of thinking of the different resources that I've had throughout my life with gun safety. My dad was a police officer. We also grew up hunting, so I was around guns my whole life, ever since I was little. I've been a police officer for almost 10 years, do quite a bit of firearms training. I'm a firearms instructor for our department. And then, like John mentioned, I've been on SWAT last couple years. So I'm around weapons a lot, and it kind of, the longer you're around something, the easier it is to make it a routine or just be really complacent with it. I think we've all seen that in our lives to some degree or another with different things. Firearms is one of those things where, especially in my profession, we try to stay we try to stay very vigilant on everything we do. Every time we go to the range, whether it's me and one other person, between the two of us, we'll review our firearm safety rules that we cover for our department. And as you know, we can recite them verbatim, but we still review them so that we're clear on what our rules are. It helps set that precedence of, hey, we're gonna deal with some weapons, whether it's just target shooting or other kind of training that we do. But we set that precedent. What we're going to do is it's a serious thing. It can, it can turn deadly in a matter of a second. So those 4 firearm safety rules that I've always gone by, especially in my police career. The first one is all guns are always loaded, and then you treat them as such. If that were the only rule, you would think that that's all you would need. If you hold a firearm, you treat it as if it's loaded and it's ready to fire at any moment. You're not going to point it at other people. You're not going to do anything that would endanger anybody else's life or your own. But that's the first one, first and foremost. Anytime you touch a gun, act as if it's loaded, and then treat it as such. The second one is don't point anything you're not willing to shoot, kill, destroy, pay for. You can add on whatever you would like to put on there. But we say that because obviously the first one it's a gun. It's a projectile coming out of there at a high speed. So you don't want to point at anything that if it were to by any chance go off at any given second, it wouldn't do any damage to that person or that property or whatever it may be. Third one is keeping your finger on the frame until you're on target and have decided to fire. Now that one, I brought a few guns I can show. I don't know everybody's experience level with guns, so if I'm covering something that you think is real basic, I apologize, but that's just where we're going to start. So, but keeping your finger off the trigger basically until you're ready to shoot. That way, if something were to happen, if you get bumped or if you get startled, a sympathetic reflex occurs, your finger's not on the trigger. And then the last one is to know your target, its surroundings, what's behind it, what's beside it and in front of it. That one, especially if you're at a range, most ranges, it's a sterile environment. There's a backdrop of some sort that helps stop that bullet once it's gone through the paper target. But it's always good to know what's beyond that. If by some chance you miss that berm or whatever it may be, where's the bullet going? And so just following those 4 basic rules, you can kind of break it down. You'd have to break at least 1 or maybe even 2 of those rules for somebody to get hurt. And so that's why it's good for us to always review those. Those are just the basic rules I go by. You can pull up on NRA's website or I think it's the National Shooting Sports Foundation or something like that. They go on and they expound on a bunch of different rules. I try to make it personal though. What rules do I need to follow? Because I know me. And if you're not very familiar with firearms, it's good to have maybe more rules or rules that you think are specific to you. Or if you go out shooting with somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of experience, it's good to establish that from the get-go. What are your bounds? What is going to help you be the safest with that gun? So, and then on that note, by a raise of hands, who here has shot a gun ever in their life? Has anybody not shot a gun? Is anybody who here owns a gun or has a gun within their house? Okay. Yeah, it's Arizona. There's guns everywhere. Everybody has guns, and it's as a police officer. I mean, we run. When I was working the road, I mean, I'd stop a car and I'd assume everybody had a gun until I knew that they didn't, which sometimes I never knew. But really, it's kind of the same nowadays for everybody. You go to the grocery store, you don't know who may have a gun and who doesn't have a gun. So on that note, a little more interaction. What kind of guns does everybody own? 22 pistol, okay. So rifle, okay. The Gambit. Yeah. All right, cool. A couple of the guns I brought are just some personal guns I have. They're nothing crazy, nothing special, but they're kind of the basic guns. So before I dig into it, I unloaded them, made sure there's no ammo here. I do have a magazine here just on the off chance something happens and I need it, but it's in this pouch. It's separate from the gun itself. But I'm going to grab them. I'm going to use this as kind of my safe zone. Obviously, I will try not to flag everybody with the gun, and by flag I mean point the gun at you. But I'll kind of use this direction over here as a safe zone. So holding it, talking about it and stuff like that, I'll try to keep it pointed over here just to get that out of the way. So the first gun that I have is it's just a 38. It's a revolver. And this was actually given to me when I graduated the police academy. My dad and a couple of his friends chipped in and bought this for me, and I actually carried it as a backup on duty. So what a revolver is, just so everybody knows, there's a cylinder. The rounds go into the cylinder. And if I say round, or that means bullet, I might use a term, I might use an acronym. If you don't know it, throw your hand up, let me know. I can explain it or attempt to. And if I can, I'm sure somebody else can. So, but this cylinder, the rounds go into that. It closes, and then those rounds line up with the barrel as you press the trigger. This one actually has it doesn't have an external hammer. You'll see in the movies they cock the hammer. This one doesn't have that external, it's inside. So as you press the trigger, once it gets to a certain point, it releases, hits the back of the primer, the back of the casing, and sends the projectile out the barrel. So just a little explanation on that. I don't know if that helps anybody understand how it works. But these are kind of thought of as a kind of an old school, old police forces. This was issued, or not this exact gun, but a revolver was issued. What I found about these is they're very reliable. Basically, you put 5 bullets in this one. That's how many holes there are. And if you're going to shoot, you just keep pressing the trigger until it stops. You know, pretty much type of thing. If it malfunctions or one of the bullets doesn't fire as intended, you just keep pressing and go to the next bullet. So that in that aspect, it's reliable. I never had an issue with this. I've probably shot over 1,000 rounds with it, and this is actually an air weight. So if I don't know how many of you know anything about these Smith & Wesson air weights, they're really lightweight. It's really light. The heaviest thing on here is the cylinder itself. The rest of the gun is really lightweight. It's intended that way. It's good for concealing. So you talk about concealment. I mean, I could throw this in my pocket and it goes away. I could tuck this in my waistband, put a shirt on, and it disappears because of its size. So this is actually a pretty good concealed carry gun if you're looking at one. The downside is if you have to shoot more than 25 rounds at any given time, or it only holds 5 rounds, so that is a downside. But if you have to shoot, or if you go out to the range and you like to shoot a lot of rounds, this is not the gun for you. After about 10 rounds, your hand is telling you to stop. You're shaking it. You're trying to switch hands, and you might start bleeding. The first time I shot it, we did a transition course. I think I shot 200 rounds in the matter of maybe about an hour and a half, and it created a blister. It started bleeding all over the gun, and it was a learning experience for me that this isn't a gun to shoot a lot of rounds through. But 38 ammunition is fairly cheap comparatively, and it's a good gun to carry. So, any questions on revolvers?
How do you know when it needs to be timed?
When it needs to be timed?
Yes.
That I'm not an armorer. I will admit I'm not a gun armorer. As far as when you put it into battery and you can feel it click, if you notice that it's out of time, see a gunsmith or somebody that you know is a reliable source with a gun. I wish I had a better answer than that. What's that?
Are there Smiths or gunsmiths around?
Around the valley? Oh yeah, absolutely. There are a lot. Almost as many as the Circle K. You can find gunsmiths all over. I would suggest checking with a gun shop. Usually they'll have more reliable gunsmiths that they would recommend that they use to work on their guns when they get them in or when they have an issue. Any gun store will have their guy, so to speak. But yeah, here in Arizona, they're all over. So that's the first weapon system, as I'll call them. Any other questions about it?
Not about that specifically, but I think it's on there. My son recently was able to buy a firearm or a pistol without a safety on it. Is that unusual or is that normal?
An external. Oh, sorry. Yeah, he said his son was able to, he purchased a firearm that didn't have a safety on it. So my follow-up question was, are you talking about external safety or internal safety? And external. Most guns don't have external safeties. At least most guns that I own and I deal with. This does not. The safety, if you want to look at it, is the operator or the person shooting and the trigger itself. You know, that's the safety element to it, if you want to look at it that way. Some other guns have internal safeties, meaning that you have to actually do something in order for that gun to go off. Whether it's a piece inside that blocks the hammer or some other internal part from striking the back of the casing. So there's something inside that prevents that contact. So you'll hear some guns are drop safe. That's how they do that. There's something internal that prevents that until that trigger's pressed. So it's a deliberate action. Does that make sense? 1911s have external safety. So if anybody's familiar with 1911s, I actually have one, but I didn't bring it. But it does have an external safety that you have to click off before you can fire.
Generally, what I found is that if you have, if there's if you have to cock it,
Sure.
there's a safety on the cocking mechanism. There is on a judge or a governor, but without having to cock it, you don't have a hammer on that one, so it probably doesn't. They probably can't put something internally on it.
It varies on different manufacturers and their models and everything. So, any other questions about revolvers at all? All right, moving on. Next one. This is a Smith & Wesson as well. It is a semi-auto, which, contrary to what you might hear on the news and the media, this is not capable of shooting like 600 rounds in a minute. That's just not what this is. By semi-auto, it means that once it fires around, the process of it firing helps reload another round. That's all that means. That means as long as you keep pressing the trigger and there's ammo left in the gun, it'll refeed itself. So that's semi-auto. Just to clarify that for anybody wondering. This is a smaller gun. I got this a number of years ago. I also got it for concealed carry, although it is a little bit bigger. You can see a little bit longer, not by much, but a little bit. About the same width, and it's actually a little bit slimmer. The positives of this are it holds more rounds. I think this one is with one round in the chamber, and I think it holds I have a 10-round magazine, which is an extended magazine actually for this. But so you can hold up to 11 rounds. So you have 5 rounds, 11 rounds. So there is a benefit there. The downside for me is it's harder for me to conceal carry with this. But good gun, pretty reliable. Like I said, it's a semi-automatic, so as long as you keep pressing the trigger, unless it has a malfunction, then it's going to fire. Go ahead. This is a Smith & Wesson M&P compact. So it's, what's that? It's a 40 millimeter. Sorry. Yeah, 40 millimeter. Sorry. 40 caliber. Yeah, it's a 40 millimeter. That's a different gun. I could talk to you about that one as well. We deploy with it. Yeah, it's Yep. So no, this is and the 40 caliber. It's kind of a controversial round. At least in my world, it was developed as kind of a in between of 9mm and 45. You can go online to any gun forum, and you can see almost death threats against, you guys having death threats against each other over which round is better, the 9mm or the 45. It's an age-old argument. No one's ever going to win that argument. It's just going to create separation. Ballistically, there's all sorts of studies that show different things.
Which one's better?
Yes. If a company wants to pay me money to tell me their round's better, I'll do it. But no. It depends, and honestly, kind of on that note, it depends what your purpose is. 40 millimeter, the reason why I have this in a 40 millimeter caliber is because our department, that's what our duty round is. This is my department gun. It's a semi-automatic as well. It's just a larger frame. But our 40 caliber is our issued ammo. And so for me to carry this on duty, it's the same ammunition and everything. And so that's why I have that way.
Is the 40 caliber round, is that more accessible than the 9mm?
Depends how much you want to pay. It's and it depends on the source. It depends on the gun store you go to that day, just kind of what's in stock or what you want to order online. It's easy to get. So
I'm concerned because like the 22s are just, you can't find 22s.
yeah, everything's, it's kind of, if you hit a gun store on the right day, then you can find plenty of 22. And in fact, they might limit it to 2 boxes a customer type of thing. You can order it online, but you might have to wait a few months. It's just, it's driven by the demand, basically. That's all it is. Unfortunately, and it's getting more common, but something happens, it's reported in the news, some mass shooting or active shooter happens somewhere in some state. Gun sales go up, the ammunition becomes harder to find. It might sustain for a little bit, but it always drops back down to prices and everything. And then the availability comes up because the manufacturers are manufacturing more, and then another shooting happens, and it's just kind of a cycle that's unfortunately never ending. It's just kind of the way the world's going right now. So, and kind of the way it will be. So, but yeah, I like this gun. It's a little bit easier to shoot than a revolver for me, and part of that is the way that it operates. So, I don't know how much everybody's interested in it, but basically when this fires, the slide goes back, it ejects around, or the casing, and as it's going forward, it loads a new round. So in that process of this sliding, going back and forth really fast, it reduces the recoil or the amount that it's actually impacting your hand. So it is a little more comfortable to shoot, easier to shoot. So if you're not a big shooter or you've never shot before, it's, these are a good option to start with, just so you can kind of get a feel for it and see how you like it. So downside to these, there's probably a lot. If anybody can think of one, throw it out there. One that I've seen actually is talking about drop safe. Out at a range, we were doing some training and a guy dropped his gun and it went off. And it was actually a Sig Sauer. It's a semi-automatic pistol, but it happens. It's not magic. It's machinery that's put together and intended to function in one way, but sometimes it doesn't really. Nothing's an absolute. So, sure.
How often does it jam on you when you're firing that?
I've probably had maybe 4 or 5 malfunctions with this where it didn't work as intended. More than likely, all those malfunctions were caused by a bad magazine, and all that is it's not, the spring got weak or old, and it didn't push the rounds up the way they should, so it didn't allow for the gun to feed a round. So those were most of those malfunctions. Sometimes, if, after thousands of rounds, the ejector, which is the part that grabs the back of the casing after it fires, on my old Sig Sauer, the ejector or the extractor sheared off, so it wouldn't extract that round. It was trying to grab it, but it was sheared off, so there was nothing to catch. So gun parts, depending on the company, they may or may not hold up. So especially with the 40 caliber, the chamber and everything like that, it's pretty just the velocity and the pressure and everything like that. It's higher than a 9mm. So, any other questions on a semi-automatic pistol, or any myths or any concerns anybody has?
In the semi-automatic style, which caliber do you prefer for stopping power for self-defense?
So that's the argument that I was talking about, that you'll find 2 people to disagree on that. Some people like the 9mm round, and I'll start to go down that path, but I don't want to go all the way down that path because we could stand here all night and discuss it. The good thing about a 9mm is generally you can hold more rounds in a gun. So if you have say a Glock 17, you can actually get a magazine and you can hold up to 21 rounds in that gun, or even more. There's some magazines that'll carry more. So if you have 20 rounds of 9mm, then that's a lot. In a 45, say you have a 1911 with just a 7-round magazine and one in the chamber, that's only 8 rounds. So that's part of the argument that always comes up. So when you're talking about self-defense, it kind of comes down to how many rounds you want readily available to you, because I could shoot, or if you shoot somebody with a 9mm 8 times and it hits in the same general direction, it's going to do a lot of damage, especially at the velocity, because 9mm is at a higher velocity than 45 caliber is. It's just kind of, it's a lot of personal preference is what I've found.
How heavy is the bullet? How many grains is the bullet typically between the 9? Is the 45 heavier?
45's heavier. And of course I don't have any bullets, but if I were to hold up a 9mm and a 45, you could definitely tell a difference, just by looking at it. And because of that size difference of the projectile itself, that's where the velocities also come into play. Smaller projectile, the 9mm can go a lot faster. So that kind of plays into the ballistics of it. And when I mean ballistics, is kind of the effect that bullet has on whatever material it hits. Just kind of put it in perspective that way.
As far as storage of the magazines, I've heard that it's best. You mentioned the springs getting weak over time, to store it like half full. Is that accurate, or is that a myth?
It depends. It depends on the magazine. If it's a good magazine, so to speak, from a reputable company, it's more high quality. I've had magazines stuffed full for years and never had issues. And then I've also had magazine that I used for about a year, and then the spring started to go out. So the company and the manufacturer can come into play with that. But I mean, if you're not going to go out to the range a lot, and you go out, you shoot, when you're done, if you download the magazines and leave them completely empty, that's less stress that's going to be on the spring. So there's probably some companies that would recommend having it half full, or even to maintain a full magazine, just because the way they engineer the springs and the internal part of the magazine. So it's one of those things that can go either way.
What about just having 2 magazines, one empty, one full, and then just switching them out more often?
Yeah, you can do that. It also depends on what you're using that gun for. If it's a hunting gun or something you're not going to pull out in your house for self-defense or home defense or anything like that, then yeah, you store it empty if that makes you feel comfortable. But if it's something you're going to rely on, you don't want to be trying to load a magazine in the middle of the night when someone's breaking in your house. It's not ideal either. So, any questions along those lines? Any comments? All right. The other gun I brought to show is it's an AR-15. This is actually one my dad bought a long time ago, and then when I got on with our department, there was a patrol rifle program. Basically, if you had your own rifle, then you can qualify with it and carry it on duty. They wouldn't issue us one yet for budget reasons and a lot of other reasons, but basically it wasn't available, so my dad helped me out, let me use it on patrol, and then after that just said, hey, keep it, I got another one. So I was like, all right, cool. So it's kind of a good deal for me. Yeah, this is an AR-15. It's chambered. This is chambered in a 5.56, so it can shoot either 5.56 or 223 ammo. It's not an assault weapon, and if that's one thing that just drives, I'll listen to the news and I have to turn it off after a while once I hear assault weapon or assault rifle thrown out. It's not. It's machine pieces just like those are. This isn't going to shoot unless I do something to it to make it shoot, just like those are. But for some reason, these seem to scare people a lot more. Has a lot higher velocity. The ballistics for this bullet are a lot greater than some of the ballistics for the other bullets in a handgun. But at the same time, these days, ammunition manufacturers, they make their bullets to do certain things, and so you can pretty much find any bullet that's going to perform the way you want. But this gun, The way that this works is a little more involved than just like a revolver. But basically, this is the magazine well. Magazine goes in. It's not a clip. Back in the day with other guns, it was a clip. It's not anymore. It's a magazine. But you can find magazines as little as 5 rounds, or magazines that hold, they're drum magazines that I think they're up to like 200 round drums that you can put on the bottom of them. It's just kind of a novelty at that point because it's going to be so heavy you're not going to be able to carry it much, if you have to walk in the mountains or anything. So, but basically put a magazine in. There's a charging handle. You basically just rack it. A bullet goes in the chamber just like every other gun. And then this one has an external safety on this side. Basically disengage that safety, press the trigger, and it fires. And then when you're done, back on safe. So this one has a safe and fire. If it was fully automatic and it could shoot 1,000,000 bullets a minute, then it would click all the way over to full auto, but it doesn't. So my work gun does, and that's kind of a novelty as well. It's fun to shoot a full auto gun for about 2 magazines, and then you realize how expensive and how much money is laying on the ground, and the cool factor goes away very quick. So it's cool to do once, but after that it just becomes expensive, and even if you're not paying for it, it's fun, but it's really not necessary, especially if you're talking about accuracy, and if you're talking about using the weapon for something that some kind of defense or home defense or whatever you want to call it. Still need to account for your rounds, and if you're missing the target, then it does no good. So to kind of put it in that perspective, this semi-automatic, press the trigger. It's not going to go off till I press the trigger again, but as long as there's a magazine with rounds, it's going to fire. So does anybody have any questions about an AR-15 style or?
The AR-15 is a style of weapon, not necessarily how large the round is.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll hear it called a AR platform. That's just talking about this. Basically, this configuration. It has the magazine well, kind of a pistol grip like this, but then also this upper piece, and then you'll hear upper lower. This separates into 2 pieces, but this upper piece has a bolt and all the inner workings inside of it. But this is the AR platform. You can get these chambered in all different rounds, and and kind of the way that the gun industry has gone, you can pretty much get any size bullet made into an AR platform. A guy I work with actually made it's a 45 round, just like you'd shoot through a 1911, but through an AR platform. Has a shorter barrel and stuff like that, but it's this platform. So, and you can, depending on how much you want to pay, you can get them in any caliber, 50 caliber, in an AR platform, or a 308, whatever it may be. So the only way to tell, if you're around them enough, you can kind of look and have an idea of what caliber it probably is, especially there's some telltale signs, but other than that, it's the
So
AR.
the vein, it's like the pistol grip is the AR, whereas the normal rifles don't necessarily have a pistol grip.
Well, it depends what's normal to you, and that's
Like
what
a hunting rifle would not necessarily have a pistol grip.
So again, that's what's because I can consider this a hunting rifle, and I do. I've gone out hunting with this, certain things, and that's kind of some states' gun laws are kind of built around this. Because it has a pistol grip, it's restricted, and so it's the way that some states' gun laws are set up to be. I think back there used to be a kind of a point system type of thing. Like if you had a pistol grip, then you can have one other thing on the gun that wasn't manufactured with type of thing. To me, it didn't make sense, and to a lot of people, it probably didn't make sense either. But that still exists today. So yeah, some states, I believe New York, there's a gun manufacturer that if it has a pistol grip, then it was restricted or regulated very heavily, basically illegal. So the gun manufacturer basically made this part of the gun the stock of a traditional, like a Remington 700 hunting type rifle, kind of the old school look. So this bottom portion looked just like that, but this upper portion, the part that matters, the part that actually fires and does all the work, was the exact same. So I could actually take it off of this, put that other lower piece on this exact upper, and it would fire the same. It would function the exact same. It's just it didn't have the script. So kind of the world we're in.
You mentioned that that's not an assault rifle. What's your definition of an assault rifle?
To me, I don't like the term assault rifle because assault is an action from one person to another. And so I can assault somebody with this. I can assault somebody with my fists. To me, it's if you wanted to label any other term other than an AR-15, you can call it an automatic weapon if it was that, or a
Semi-auto.
yeah, this is semi-auto.
Do you call a full auto an assault rifle then?
No, I personally
You don't believe that there is.
personally I don't call any gun an assault rifle. That's just my personal thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
If I don't even know what term I
They're
would.
advertised as assault rifles. That's why.
Sure, and there's some companies that do it, and that's their thing. Personally, I don't agree with it.
The pistol grip on the AR-15, do you think it improves your accuracy when you move from that weapon to your handgun?
That's a good point, or a good question. It can, because it is kind of that same angle. It's very similar, but at the same time, if you're shooting this properly, you're going to have two hands on the gun in a different configuration than a handgun. If I'm going to shoot this, I'm going to have my other hand up here towards the front. I'm going to pull up to my shoulder, and this is how I'm going to shoot it. With a pistol, which that my hand's kind of at the same angle, and you can see just holding this here. If I'm going to shoot this, both my hands are together, and that's how that's this configuration. But you can look at this kind of the way my wrist is locked in this manner. That's kind of the same angle. So it can, but at the same time, two different things. And especially the recoil on this is reduced dramatically, because just to get a little bit more of it, there's a spring inside of this tube here that goes back. So the bolt goes back, and that spring pushes it back forward, and that motion helps reduce that recoil, or basically how much that gun moves when it fires.
Just to follow up on what you just said, and just to add something that I have found as well, a lot of people get freaked out about AR-15s because they just look weird or they look different. That's all. And I appreciate the fact that what you just said about them not being assault rifles and so forth. They're great rifles, especially for older people and for women. And the reason why I say that is because the recoil on the 5.56, even the 223, like you said, you can fire in it, is next to nothing. And also, as he pointed out, the barrel and the recoil spring in the collapsible stock are in line. So there's very little recoil as far as it coming straight up. It comes straight back for the most part. So even if you are weaker or you have bad shoulders, which a lot of older people do, and myself included, or you're slightly built or whatever, the AR-15 tends to be an excellent rifle because you can handle it safely and you can hit what you're pointing at for the most part. So it's an excellent platform, and that's one of the reasons why it's so popular in America.
Yeah, good points. Thank you. Appreciate it. Go ahead. Sorry.
As a mom and a teacher, I'm concerned about all these shootings with children being killed, being wounded. What are we not doing? Because I know that's a big
Sure.
and it could be particular to each person and that kind of thing. But what could we do to make it safer?
Now, if are you talking about kind of children getting hold of guns? Absolutely. So what I found out, and I have three kids. One's 8, one's 5, and then the other one's a little baby. But so my boys, ever since they were little, they've been around guns. They've been taught that they are what they are, and they aren't what they aren't. You know what I mean? So kind of what we discussed. When we go out hunting or shooting, that's their time to play with it. And I use that term loosely, just to experience it, to know that yes, it can be dangerous if used wrong. But if you know how to do it properly and you do it safely, you know, following these rules, because I teach them the firearm safety rules that I started with, then they have that foundation that they can build on, that they can know that, you know, it's not something scary, it's not something that maybe it kind of eliminates a little bit of curiosity. So to me, it starts with education. You know, if they know what it is, they know what it does, that can prevent. And I'm not going to say will, because nothing's absolute, especially in today's world. And then also another follow-up to that is just because we're at my house and I store my guns the way I store them, my son knows that and understands that, well, if we have one of, you know, his cousins or a neighbor comes over and plays, then it's up in the air. So that's, it all falls on us as parents, or, you know, just that education is important so that they know what it is, what it does, maybe what it's used for, what it should be used for. And then the other side of it is storage. So how do you store it? And maybe we can kind of segue into that, because I think that is more important topic of discussion. My duty guns, I store in my house. They're loaded. They're ready to go. I don't unload them at the end of shift or when I get home or anything like that. And that's strictly for if I wake up in the middle of the night, something is happening, I grab it and I go. I don't have time to sit there and load or, you know, to check it or anything like that. That said, I have a little safe in my closet where I store it, so that my kids don't just have free reign or access to it. And then other guns, if I'm not going to be shooting them for a while, I'll just leave them unloaded. But it comes down to storage, and then you know, where is it somewhere where the kids know where they're at, or somewhere they can easily find them. Out of sight, out of mind type of mentality. I think that's important. And then another thing is there's devices you can purchase, or a lot of guns. I believe that when I bought this Smith & Wesson, the semi-automatic, it came with a gun lock. So it's basically a cable that you would run just in this. Once this is locked back, you run down through the magazine well and up out of this action, and you lock it. What that does is it prevents this from going all the way into action. So this will not go all the way forward. A bullet can't be chambered and can't be fired. And so there are devices you can purchase. There's different locks, trigger locks that you can buy and put on there, lock them, hide the key. There's a lot of different things you can do physically to prevent the gun from being fired. But again, it also depends on what your use is going to be for that. Because if it's a gun that you're kind of relying on for home defense, obviously a gun lock isn't ideal. But to kind of wrap up, I think it's education, and exposing, you know, letting kids experience the gun. Like, this is how it shoots. Let's go out and shoot, and they shoot it, and like, oh, cool, no big deal. That's kind of what I found. So,
one of the most important things we can do is teach our children that a gun is a tool, nothing more, nothing less. Guns do not assault people. People assault other people.
Sure. And
life is not a video game where you shoot somebody and 2 minutes later they're up again walking around. Life is important.
yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's paramount.
With that in mind, I'm sure safety is a big issue when it comes to firearms. I'm wondering, when I was growing up, we had to take a gun safety course before we could go hunting and get our hunting license when I was a young kid.
Yeah.
Is that same in Arizona?
Yeah. Arizona Game and Fish, they'll put on the hunter safety education courses.
Is it a requirement for young people before they get their hunting license?
That I'm not 100% sure on. We could probably Google it before the end of this class, and somebody can have an answer for us. But I'm not sure if it is a requirement that you have to go through to be able to hunt. I know I did when I was, I think 12 is when you can start taking it. I was 12. My dad took me and my brother, we went through the class, and been hunting since. So, but yeah, absolutely. I remember in that class, you know, learning a lot, learning about guns, but more importantly, you know, kind of the human element to it, where basically, you know, it's your responsibility and you take ownership. If you're holding a gun, it's on you to make sure that it's safe and that you're doing it properly. And then I remember we went to a shooting range. I think it was up at Rio Salado. They have their little steel silhouette set up that you kind of walk through. I had my little 22. I was all happy, and you had to walk through, and look at a target, you had to identify it, and then engage it, or basically shoot at it. And it was, to me, that was the education part of it that, kind of put it all together, because I was around them ever since I was little. But once you go through that kind of structured course of this is the way to do it, that's always a plus, especially for children. So to kind of merge those things, that's a good option for, especially in today's world. You mentioned video games. You can get any video game, you can start playing and see how it desensitizes us to the human life, and just it is what it is, and it's nothing crazy, But in reality, you see the world the way it's become. It's kind of insane.
It's one thing to shoot a target, shoot a live animal. Let's see what the destructive part.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. The first deer I shot, it was kind of like, whoa, like this is different, and so yeah, that absolutely puts everything. It just tightens up. That builds on that foundation. That hey, this is real. This is serious. So yeah, it's good points. So.
Todd, based on a quick Google search, anyone under the age of 14 must do the hunter safety course. I don't know what it is after that, but initial research is that under 14.
So under 14?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I recommend it. And to be honest, I'd like to take it again just because, it's been a long time since I took it, and there's always good information that's being passed along, especially from those agencies. And obviously Game and Fish, they regulate the hunting, so if you're going to be out hunting, make sure you know their rules, because they'll write you a ticket in a heartbeat. Sure.
Yeah, in my house, when grandkids come or kids come over, if they are small, and I mean under 10 or whatever, it is not a tool. They are told that if they see a gun, they run and they tell me, or they run and see their parents. It is not a curiosity item. When they get to be 14 or some other age, or you can be out at the range, then it's a tool. But at a young age, it's not a tool.
Sure.
It's not something they should ever see. They're told if my kids are told to go, if they go to a friend's house and they see a gun, they're immediately to leave.
Absolutely. And I was doing a little bit of research the other day. There's tons of websites that have information that give you ideas of how to educate. And along those lines, I think it was kidshealth.org. They had an article about guns. If you have guns in the home, how to teach a child or help them understand basically what you're saying. If they see it, and there was a step process that made it simple, and I can't find it. There it is. So stop what you're doing, don't touch it, leave the area, and tell an adult. Those are 4 simple steps. And, as an adult, you can be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Well, as a kid, you really need to spell it out for them. So, stop what you're doing, don't touch it, leave the area, tell an adult. Something simple, and can hopefully prevent that curiosity, prevent those accidents from happening. So.
And I've been around guns, all my life. My dad made guns that shot in the Olympics, and I would zero him in. And so I've been there. I've been on a SWAT team in one of the police forces here. But I don't want any curiosity with any young kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything around. They see a gun, that's a major event for them.
Sure.
Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions along those lines?
Well, just to kind of key off of what he's talking about there. Now, the Boy Scouts, we have age-appropriate shooting. So a Cub Scout.
In Cub Scouts, in the Boy Scouts of America, we have age-appropriate shooting. We have a range master, the safety officer on range. We'll have those Cub Scouts out there lined up, following the commands, and they can shoot the air rifles, the BB guns. And as they get older, when they get into 12, 13, 14, when they're on the range at summer camp, we'll have them with the 22 single-fire rifles, where they have to load each one of them into the chamber, each bullet into the chamber. Again, that's monitored with an adult, 21 and older. We have the range officer there, and the range safety officer as well. So we have a lot of education going on there, so that when they do see one of these guns, they are at least respectful of that weapon or gun.
Yeah, and it's just going back to that education and providing an environment for them to learn that. So one of the things I wanted to touch on was, if you are going to go out shooting, eye protection and ear protection. When I was little, we'd go out, shoot shotguns, dove hunting or whatever, and it's just kind of, yeah, we're out hunting. And the shotgun blaster, after some time, do some damage on the hearing. So today's world, there's all sorts of options of noise cancellation headphones or noise enhancing headphones that if something's over a certain decibel, it'll reduce its impact, but at the same time you could hear somebody talking next to you. There's good technology that's been advanced in that field. So, but I mean, ear protection is vital. And also eye protection, especially if you're going to be shooting like a steel target or something like that. Possibility of getting some splashback is always there, or something happening with the gun itself. You have a bad round, something happens. It's always good to protect your eyes. So I think that kind of falls into the topic of gun safety as well. The actual operation of it. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. And then if you're shooting an AR-15 and you're going to be shooting a lot of rounds in the summertime, these handguards get really hot. Wear some gloves. Personal protection goes a long way when it comes to firearms. So, any questions? Go ahead.
Just have another comment. I've worked in the National Forest for 42 years, and we were always in a battle with the NRA over this, because people come out there with their televisions, trash, whatever, and they're shooting that, and they're making a terrible eyesore of crap in the forest. So if you're one of those kinds of shooters, you need to pack it out, folks. This is public lands. You need to, if you bring it in and you shoot it up, pick up all the pieces, put it in a bag, and take it out, so that the rest of the population in the United States can enjoy the national forest. And I'll add, that would be BLM as well, the Indian lands and national parks, state parks. Let's protect our lands.
Good, I like it. Any questions at all about anything?
It's about being in a vehicle when you're stopped. What is the best protocol that an officer would like to see from a driver? I put both hands on the steering wheel. That's how I start, and I don't reach for anything until he comes up. Tell us what you'd like to see.
No,
you walk up.
Yeah. So, when I was working the road and making traffic stops, as I'm walking up to a car, the more I could see into a car, the better. So, kind of judging on the time of year, obviously if it's pouring rain, I don't expect you to roll all your windows down. If it's 120 degrees outside, I don't expect you to roll all your windows down. But if it's a night like night and you get pulled over on the way home, just roll your windows down. Because the more an officer can see in the car, the more comfortable he's going to be. You mentioned the hands on the steering wheel. Yeah, obviously if I can see your hands, I know I can at least know what you're doing at that moment. And then don't reach for anything until you're asked. Yeah, that's right on. You're obviously going to be asked for some paperwork, license, registration, insurance at some point. So, and if you have that ready before the officer gets there, so be it. Officers deal with that on a daily basis. If you have a gun in the car, then that's what I'd recommend. Basically, all those things I just said. Make it as visible as you can, or as much. Let the officer see as much of the car as you can. Keep your hands where he can see them. And then as soon as I liked it, where if I made a traffic stop, I'd introduce myself and tell the person why I stopped them. Then at that point, it's like, whatever. If they want to tell me excuse, whatever. But if they had a gun, that's where I would like to know. If they say, hey, just to let you know, I have a gun underneath the seat, or in the center console, or in the glove box. But yeah, one of the first things, other than, good evening or anything like that, let them know where the gun is. Say, if you have a gun. This is where the gun's at, just so that gets it out of the way. From there, the ball's in the officer's court. If he says, all right, I want you to grab it, put it up on the dash, whatever it is, then that's the officer's, and the law backs the officer up on that, control the firearm, the remainder of that contact. Does that fully answer your question?
Yeah. Is it acceptable to black out your address on your registration and insurance card so that if someone is to break into your car that they can't go to your home address?
On the paperwork itself,
Yes.
I believe you can. Because that information, or at least the registration, is within the database, the MVD database that the officer is going to look at anyway. So that, and you bring up a great point that I agree with that, because somebody breaks in your car, they have all your information. You know,
And they also have your garage door opener.
they do. Yeah. So.
Not if you take it out.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of falls into how many what precautions you're taking as far as protecting that. But yeah, that's a good point. From what I know right now, I can't think of anything that says in law that you absolutely can't black that out, unless, you know, I can't know all the laws. It's just nobody does. But we can look it up. I don't think there's anything that prevents that. To black out the address. There you go. So I would look into it before I did it, but then again, like I said, it's in the system, and if officer's going to run it anyway and have that information. So yeah, it's good to prevent the wrong people from getting it.
My question's about the functionality of aged powder and primers. I know at one point it was considered by the government that they were going to make planned deterioration of primers and powder. Do you know anything about that?
I do not. Sorry, I came ill prepared for your questions. What I do know is that our department regulates how often we cycle out our ammo. So like my duty ammunition, I won't carry for longer than 3 years. And it gets exposed to elements, rain, dust storm, stuff like that can help deteriorate it at a different rate. So there is something to that, but at the same time, I've shot rounds that were, I don't even know how old they were, but they still fired. So it's kind of a, again, it's not magic. It's just pieces of metal put together. So, but yeah, I haven't heard about the government coming up with anything like that, although I wouldn't put it past them.
I know that some powders get hotter and some will be less, so you kind of need to know that.
Yeah, it's
buying from a certain manufacturer.
Yeah, and that's, anytime you buy, or if you're just starting to get into getting ammunition, and if you're thinking long-term storage, definitely just check with the manufacturer. A lot of that information, that literature is already published, either on their website or available in some form, so you can check out the ins and outs of what they recommend, or what their ammunition, kind of their protocol for storage. So, any other questions at all? Any concerns?
I was reading an article, this was probably a year ago. Anyway, I was reading this article about a year ago, and it's not in this state, but in other states, and we travel a lot. And they said, if you have a gun between the two seats, and your wife is there and the husband is there, you're both liable if you don't have concealed carry cards. Yeah. So it was actually, they were actually citing how many times they had arrested both of them. So
yeah, definitely. If you are gonna take a gun to another state, you got to check out their laws. Some states are
a lot stricter than us.
Yeah, a lot stricter. To say the least. In some states, it's like Arizona, if not a little more lenient. So it's
if the gun is visible, is it concealed?
To me, no.
So if it's sitting between you, then it's not concealed. You wouldn't need a concealed weapons permit.
Well, and that's what it comes down to, is the state and what their law states. Because sometimes even within the subsections, they'll go into more detail as far as, it requires 2 movements to make the gun present. There's all sorts of lawyer talk in there. So you'd have to check out that state's law, the way it's written, the verbiage, because that could be a difference. So.
I just believe in protecting yourself.
No, absolutely, 100%. Especially today's world. If you watch the news at all this week, if I'm out of my house, I got a gun on me, pretty much. I like to, at least. If I can't, You know, it is what it is. If I have to go somewhere that I'm not allowed to carry, I just kind of make up for that with kind of heightened vigilance, just kind of making sure I'm checking out my area more. I'm more cautious of what I'm around and who I'm around.
Yeah, they're
But
saying
it's-
now you should check all the exits, have a plan if you're in a restaurant, how you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
My voice carries.
It's for the recording, not for the computer.
Oh.
so the question, she had mentioned that she just likes to protect herself, and kind of the preparation of knowing where you're at, the exits, the way the building is set up, and everything like that. And now we can go back to the other classes that I was a part of. There were some good questions that came up from those that we went over that. Definitely knowing your area, knowing where you're at, if you're in a restaurant, the exits, knowing who else is in the restaurant, knowing kind of just kind of human watching a little bit and seeing other people's behaviors and what they're doing. So yeah, absolutely. And a part of it is carry a gun. If you feel comfortable doing it, if you can do it safely, for sure. My recommendation. But.
This is just a little bit of extra information. I found one of the best gun locks it's on a Kickstarter. It's made by a company called Zor. So they're coming out. They're not out yet, but it actually physically goes into the gun, and then it has a combination lock that you determine, and it's really quick. It's just a clicking, not an actual number system. And then because the block goes into the action, so after you do the gun lock and you rack the gun, it ejects the gun lock, and then it chambers around all in really quick, and it can be done completely in the dark. So go check them out. And they also have motion detection, so you'll actually, if your gun moves at all, you'll get a notification on your phone saying your gun is moved, or the drawer that it's in is moved, or wherever. For me, that's the safest one I found, and when they actually come out, you can consider. I'm convinced the wife to get it. I'm going to get one, but there's really good things to keep your gun safe, so you can easily carry. Then when you get home, you can lock it up, but have it still accessible, and then carry again, and then come home. So there's ways of making carrying safer and easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like I said earlier, it's personal. Whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you can do, and make it safe for yourself and those around. But yeah, whatever you're good with. So.
What would you recommend for, say, your wife for home defense or for personal carry? Do you have any recommendations? Not necessarily make and model, but style?
Probably. What's that? Shotgun, yeah. 12 gauge. Yeah. Yeah, shotgun. I didn't bring one, but that's a good point. Kind of depends. Whatever she was comfortable with, whatever she liked. Whatever she felt comfortable with carrying her with her or in her purse, whatever. Her purse is this big, so I know she could fit whatever. But yeah. Did she? I knew she would. I recommend a little 38. It's again, it's not. They're very reliable. If something happens, it's an up close weapon. Press off rounds and then run if she needs to make that break. So.
For me, it's the recoil. I care about the recoil.
So you prefer more of like a semi-automatic?
I want something that doesn't have
Sure.
a whole lot of kick.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about just target shooting or just protection.
Well, we do target shooting, but
Yeah.
it's mainly for protection.
Okay. So she says that she prefers the something with less recoil. That's what she was saying.
My wife has a Judge, and we load it with the 410 shotgun shells. It's a pistol it's a revolver, 5-shot revolver, and when she's walking through, we have property up by the Grand Canyon, and when she's walking through the forest up there, we have rattlesnakes up there, and she feels real comfortable walking through there because she can protect herself.
Sure. Yeah. That's what she's good with.
Yeah, I teach concealed carry permit classes when they used to have them before we went to constitutional carry. I can tell you definitively it doesn't matter what gun you carry, it matters your training. Train with the gun that's how you're going to be comfortable with it, whether it's a revolver or anything else. If you don't have any training, then basically carrying a gun is nothing better than a talisman. You're just hoping that this thing is going to keep the bad guys away from you because you don't have a clue what you're going to do or how you're going to act or what you're going to do after the fact. So I would recommend, going and taking a good course, not a concealed carry course, because they basically cover legalities, but they don't really teach you how to fight with the gun. Go take a 2 or 4 day course at any number of different schools around the area or around the country, whatever your choice may be. Train with the gun that you're comfortable with. With regard to recoil, it's all your grip and your stance and so forth. Once you learn proper, body, how to hold the gun properly and how to fire it, it doesn't matter what caliber it is because you outweigh that gun by probably 10 times, if not more. So it doesn't matter. It makes no difference whatsoever because you're going to be using your whole skeletal structure, not just your wrists, to control that gun. Believe me, you can fire anything you want to carry perfectly comfortably and perfectly accurately with the proper training. So it really doesn't matter whatsoever.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
And I've done a lot of shooting in the past, but if I had to go up against you right now, I'm a dead man.
No.
Because I haven't been practicing for a long time. So people that think they're going to have a gun and that it's going to do something for them and they aren't going to go out and shoot it at least once every 3 months, they're just carrying around a rabbit's foot. I mean, I know with what I've done. Understand Phoenix Police Department, the guy went and got into a fight and he knew he did before and this is a guy that's shooting once a month or 3 times a month or every 3 months. He shot the car 7 times before he cleared the hood. And so a lot of things happen to you when you get into a firefight before you even get the first round off. I have another suggestion. You're not buying a gun when you're looking to get a gun. You look at the cartridge and you find out what that cartridge will do. And one of the best ways to do that, and we used to do that at concealed training, and that's you take milk bottles and you set them out and you shoot a different caliber at a different milk bottle. You can take a 380 or a 22 and it just punches a hole. If you think you're going to do much with that, it isn't going to help you much in self-defense. If you're someone who expects, to stop as a policeman, how close will you let me get before I am a threat to you?
Well, there's a lot of variables that go into that. Do you have a gun? Do you have a knife?
If I've got a knife and I'm coming, you're not going to let me within 21 feet.
Sure. It's a general rule.
The sport in Africa of hunting lions, and this goes to this point, is that you chase a lion with a gun bearer until the lion has had enough and he's decided that he's going to turn around and charge you. Then you're supposed to get off the horse, you stand beside your horse, and you shoot the lion. The first shot is not going to put the lion down. And the lion will shot right through the heart is still going to come 100 yards and eat the guy. So the question is while the lion is coming, you can get it. The same thing applies to policemen. You can put many shots and you're not going to stop the fellow coming in. So we're talking about the gritty part of this. You need to decide on a cartridge whether it hurts to fire it or whatever. It needs to be one you're going to practice with. It also needs to be one that you can shoot. If you can't shoot it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. You see a lot of people spending $3,000-$4,000 on a pretty cool looking gun, and then you see them shoot, and you see their target after they shoot, and it's you feel sorry for them for spending that much money because they could do the same thing throwing rocks. So and it comes down to that. The other side of this, and obviously we don't have time, and we could talk for days about it, but it's the mental preparation. So you're carrying a gun for a purpose, and what is that purpose? If it is for self-defense or it is for protecting your family, your home, whatever it may be, you have to mentally prepare for every situation that you may encounter. You obviously cannot think of everything that will come up, but you can prepare yourself to a degree. And that visualization, that thinking of, hey, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. I can tell you from experience that just that alone, you will find benefit in doing that. If you can mentally think, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. Well, if it does, you've already thought of that in your mind. Subconsciously, you'll do things that otherwise maybe you wouldn't. And what he talks about, those high-stress situations. Police shootings, yeah, I don't even know what the percentage is. I don't want to make up a stat. But the actual hit ratio to the amount of rounds fired, it's astonishing. It's pretty embarrassing. But the side of it is, it's a high-stress situation. It's something that the human body, it does its thing in those situations. So the more you can condition yourself to that, the better you'll be when it happens. So.
Thank you, Todd.
Good
Let's go ahead and close. We'll thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and have a closing prayer, and then Todd can be able to ask some questions if you have some personal questions. I'm sure he'll be willing to hang out with her a little bit. And can I get a volunteer? Vaughn, you've already volunteered for the opening prayer. I'm not going to let you do it again. Yeah, let's put the benches away. Pack those up, will you? Any volunteer for prayer? Ready, thank you.